Good afternoon. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Babu sir.
Madam, now
Good afternoon, Silpa.
Shall we start, sir?
Yeah, I am ready.
Okay, sir.
Respected dignitaries, chief guest of the day, respected senior members of profession, speakers, and my dear fellow members. Very good afternoon to everyone. Today, we have all gathered on this virtual platform to participate in Jwala 2021, which is the third season of conference conducted by Women's Club of Thrissur branch in association with Thrissur branch of SIRC of ICAI. The Women's Club of Thrissur branch is formed under the Women's Members Empowerment Committee, WMEC, formed by ICAI, and is an integral part of Thrissur branch of SIRC of ICAI. Presently, among all 9 branches of ICAI in Kerala, our Thrissur branch is the only branch having constituted a women's club with the participation of around 200 lady chartered accountants. And every year, the Women's Club elects president and secretary to carry on the activities of the club, which is ably supported by the managing committee of the branch. It conducts CPE study circles, seminars, and takes an inevitable role in all cultural programs conducted by the branch. Now, let us start Jwala 2021 with our motto song.
Yaesha supteshu jagrati Yaesha supteshu jagrati Kamam 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 Pursho nirvimanaha nirvimanaha Tadeva shukram brahma Tada brahma Tadeva amritamucchate Tasmin lokaha shataha Sarve taduna kaschan
All of us know that COVID pandemic prevented us from having physical meetings and get-togethers. In order to overcome this challenge, we have devised the virtual platform mode, which have helped in much better reach among members globally. Last year, we conducted Jwala 2020 virtually, which was a great success on account of content and participation. More than 250 members attended the 2-day seminar. We, the members of Women Club, are glad to see the response for today's program and expect active participation from all the members throughout the program. It is our responsibility to enrich all participants of Jwala 2021 on account of contents and its quality. We have selected the topics and speakers with this objective in our mind and hope that we can succeed in this. The Managing Committee of Thrissur branch of SIRC of ICAI has supported us in planning and execution of Jwala 2021, without which this program would not have happened. Now, it is time to welcome each and every one of you officially. And for this, I invite the President of Women's Club, CA Bindu ma'am, for her welcome address. Over to Bindu ma'am.
Thank you, Gayathri. A very good afternoon to each one of you presented and attending this webinar. Respected Chief Guest of the Day, Executive Director of Kalyan Hypermarket, Mrs. VARDHINI PRAKASH, Senior Central Council Member, CA Babu Abraham Kallivailil, our SIRC Chairman, CA Jalabadi K, Dr. Sonia Joseph, Consultant in Pediatrics, General Hospital Irinalakuda, ex officio Thrissur branch of ex officio of Thrissur branch and past SIRC chairman, CA Jomon K. George, CA Shruti PS, CA final rank holder from Thrissur, chairman of Thrissur branch of SIRC of ICAI, CA Aryan KK, managing committee members of Thrissur branch, senior members of the profession, and my dear professional colleagues. I feel extremely fortunate to be given this opportunity to welcome you all today for the inaugural ceremony of our 2 days webinar, Jwala 2021, organized by the Women's Club of Thrissur branch in association with Thrissur branch of SIRC of ICAI. Women's Club of Thrissur branch is in existence for past 9 years. We are proudly conducting Jwala, the Lady CA conference, for the past 3 years. Women's Club is formed under the Women Empowerment Committee of ICAI and is also a very integral part of our branch. We conduct Jwala every year with a motive of women empowerment, and it is definitely a platform for all the upcoming lady speakers. Though virtually this year, our branch had a grand Onam celebration. Our Women's Club members actively participated in the program and added color to the celebration by performing up a beautiful Tiruvadara and a melodious Onapat. As in the last year, this year also, we are planning an all-women panel for our webinar. I am quite sure that today we are going to witness the rise of 4 new faculties. Here, I would like to recognize the valuable support extended to us by our chairman, CA Aryan, and past chairperson, CA Shilpa Ramdas. Let me move to the formal welcome. I feel extremely honored to introduce today's chief guest, Mrs. VARDHINI PRAKASH, Executive Director of Kalyan Hypermarket, a group concern of prestigious Kalyan Silks, MBA holder in HR Management, first rank holder from Loyola College Trivandrum. She has proved that success in business is not based on gender, rather it is based on hard work and business ethics. Ma'am, we understand your busy schedule and we thank you for agreeing to participate in this meeting. We with respect welcome you, ma'am, to this meeting. Our senior Central Council member, CA Babu Abraham Kallivali, is and has always been a part of Thrissur branch. All of us know the guidance, support, and friendship extended to us by him. And we are very happy that you are among us to address the gathering. Welcome, CA Babu, sir. Due to some unavoidable circumstances, our special guest of the day, Chairman of SIRC, CA Jalabadi K, could not join us today. He has conveyed his regards and best wishes to the entire team. Even though in his absence, I would like to welcome him in this meeting. With immense pleasure, I would like to welcome the November 2020 CA final rank holder from Thrissur, CA Shruti, who is definitely a role model to all CA aspirants. We can listen to her motivating words a little later during this session. The past chairperson of Thrissur branch, CA Shilpa Ramdas, who is our great pillar of support, has agreed to be the conference convener. We welcome you, ma'am, to this webinar, and we are waiting for your valuable guidance. I welcome our chairman, CA Aryan sir, who does not require any introduction. Next, let me welcome our faculties of Jwala 2021, our own members who took Jwala as an opportunity rather than a challenge. With immense admiration, I welcome CA Babitha, who will present her paper on taxation of foreign income in India. CA Gayathri, who will discuss us with about GST input tax credit. CA Valentina, who will talk about key matters regarding accounting for and auditing digital asset. CA Shruti Aju, who will present her paper about trust and trust renewals. I would like to welcome all other members of Women's Club Thrissur branch who are directly or indirectly a part of our prestigious Jwala 2021. It is my pleasure to welcome our senior members of the profession, managing committee members of Thrissur branch, and all my fellow members in the profession to this meeting. I would like to request everyone to kindly cooperate with us throughout the program for making it a great success. Wish you all a fruitful session ahead. Thank you and have a nice day.
Thank you, ma'am, for your address. As I told earlier, conducting Jwala would not be possible without the support and encouragement of Managing Committee of Thrissur branch of SIRC of ICAI, especially Chairman of Thrissur branch, CA Aryan KK sir. I welcome Aryan sir for Chairman's address. Sir,
CA Gayathri, respected President of Women's Club Thrissur, CA Bindu SS, our Chief Guest, Woman Industrialist, Mrs. VARDHINI PRAKASH, our Central Council Member and Conference Director, CA Babu Abraham Kaliwale, our past SIRC Chairman and ex-officio member, CA Jomon K. George, our Conference Convener and past Chairperson, CA Shilpa Ramdas, Secretary of Women's Club, CA Dhanya PC, our rank holder from Thrissur, CA Shruti PS, speakers of today's session, CA Babitha, DE and CA Gayathri MV, other committee members, Women's Club members on the screen and off the screen, our senior members and fellow members. A warm good afternoon to one and all. At the outset, let me congratulate Women's Club Thrissur and appreciate the efforts taken by them for organizing this Jwala event continuously for the third year. An event which was started to enrich the knowledge and promote the women empowerment. Young professionals sharing their knowledge for the benefit of entire profession. That's great. I'm happy to be part of this event and address the members attending this. Today and tomorrow, around 5 speakers are delivering the speech on different topics of importance today's. Wish all the very best to the Women's Club and speakers. Thanking once again the Women's Club giving me this opportunity, and we extend all the supports to the Women's Club for this event. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Aryan sir, for your address. Now, we are moving on to introduce our chief guest of the day, Mrs. VARDHINI PRAKASH, Executive Director, Kalyan Hypermarket. I welcome CS Swapna Balasubramaniam for the formal introduction of our chief guest. Over to you, Swapna ma'am.
Thank you, Gayathri. A warm good evening to all. It's a great honor that we have with us today Mrs. VARDHINI PRAKASH as the chief guest of Jwala 2021. Mrs. VARDHINI PRAKASH, Executive Director, Kalyan Hypermarket, hails from the capital city of Trivandrum, currently settled in the cultural city of Thrissur. She is an MBA graduate in Human Resource Management and a proud alumnus and first rank holder from Loyola College, Trivandrum. She is married to Prakash Pattabhiraman, the elder son of Sri P.S. Pattabhiraman, founder and chairman of Kalyan Silks. She is blessed with 2 sons, Avait and Lakshmandra. Before venturing into the hypermarket field, she was heading the designing department of Kalyan Silks. Under her able leadership, her team developed their own embroidery and embellishment, focusing on bridal couture and in customization. Kalyan Hypermarket is its 4th year with a remarkable growth since its inception. It is jointly managed by Mrs. VARDHINI as well as her co-sister Madhumati Mahesh. Currently, Kalyan 2 in Thrissur and 1 each in Chin, Perindalmanna and Kalpetta. 3 more stores are in the pipeline at Koilon, Calicut and Alapi. Background works are in progress to open small format stores that come under the banner of Express Mart. As a person with a keen urge to learn, evolve, and improve continuously, we can definitely see her as a thorough entrepreneur in the years to come. Madam, we are very much proud to have you and kickstart Jwala, the flagship program of this club of Thrissur branch of ICAI. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Sapna, for this wonderful introduction. Distinguished guests, institute members, and members of Women's Club of Thrissur, a very warm good afternoon to one and all. Am I audible? Hello? Am I audible?
Yes, you're audible.
All right. Sorry for that. It's an honor and privilege for me to be on this platform, interacting with such a talented audience. Thank you so much for this opportunity. I must say, your motto song is really invoking. I would start by applauding the initiative to bring together so many women for a good cause. It speaks a lot about the intentions to network, to move forward and evaluate what progress means to us personally and how we can grow together. I was in fact surprised and taken aback when I heard that the CA group has a strong hold of over 200 plus practicing women CA from Thrissur itself. It speaks volumes of how women's education has progressed in the professional field. In fact, when I was invited by Shilpa, I asked her, why am I a novice in the field of business? Invited, and what am I supposed to talk, especially to this highly professional bunch of women? Then she boosted up my confidence by telling, I need to just talk about my journey, the challenges, hurdles, whatever I faced as a woman entrepreneur. But women empowerment, the very word has got power in it. And we are all power packed. Either it is hibernating in us or we aren't using it well. Unless we are tough, we cannot be a good mother. So unless we are brave, we cannot be a good wife. So this is all inherent in us. Only thing is that we will have to do a little bit of touching and polishing work to it. At the outset, I must say, we must be grateful to be living in this time as things are looking up for women, especially in India. The very backbone of our country is in the hands of a safe woman, our finance minister. Same is the case with the state cabinet also. We see women enjoying prime position in the political scenario now. And you take the Olympics, Tokyo Olympics, for example, women have outnumbered men in winning medals. And we all know women are not far behind in business too. I know the ladies present here would be a treasure trove of experiences. Anyways, I would like to share a few experiences of my journey too. And this being a female-centric platform, my talk would be towards that side. So please excuse my favoritism. Last 6 to 7 years, as Swapna ma'am had already given an introduction, I was silently involved in business, and our hypermarket started only in the year 2017. This was actually a long cherished dream of my father-in-law, Sri T.S. Pattabhiraman. He is such a dynamic person. So he wanted to enter into some kind of a diversification. He wanted to do something else other than the textile division. And each time he returned from an abroad trip, he used to say, our state is really lacking such a supermarket, which is really supermarkets like Carrefour and all those things in Dubai, which is really spacious. It is well lit. It has got so much of items, the display, fancy lights, which actually motivates us to buy. Even if you don't want to fill your carts, also we end up filling up our carts because of the display and how the spaciousness and all those things. So this was there in the back of his mind for a long time. So finally, it bloomed in 2017, April. We started our first hypermarket in Vennikkal. It is a 14,000 square feet one, which is started in the 5th floor of our existing Kalyan Silks showroom. So that was actually a trial run for us. 3 months later, we started the big one in Thrissur, which is the flagship store, which is more than 50,000 square feet. So that leap was really big for us. And as far as we were concerned, our experience with a hypermarket was only as customers or consumers. We haven't dealt with it at all. So we actually, being amateurs in the field, we had a lot of teething problem too. In fact, when we started the store, we started without having matchboxes to sell. We didn't realize we didn't have that. So it was like that. We faced a lot of problems, faulty displays, staff issue. Since it's a huge store, the staff were also not very well aware of which was placed where. And when the customer came and asked them, they will say, you just go up. Or they will just direct you to some wrong place so that customer has to eventually walk around and around and around. Nothing else happened. And in a place like Kerala, one product is known in various names. For example, tapioca. Tapioca, in the southern part of Kerala, it is called as Marchini. In, I think, central part, it is called Kappa, and Thrissur and upwards, it's called as Kolli. So same product has got so many names. So when a customer comes and asks, okay, do you have martini here? I heard my staff. He said, no, it is not available here. The staff didn't even go and ask a supervisor or someone else, or didn't even have the initiative to find out what actually it meant. So these were many teething problems that we had. And the consumers, they are so strict and they are so defined in whatever they want to buy. If he needs only X brand of turmeric powder, he will buy only that. He is not willing to shift because we have got other brands. So all these things, it took us some time to understand. In fact, we were not planning to come into the hypermarket business at all. The first few days we spent in the store just to see how the crowd was, how the customers were reacting. And finally, we understood, unless there is a owner touch, it becomes difficult for the supermarket to thrive, because we really wanted to know what the customers actually wanted. So hence the first 3 months, 3 to 6 months, I was actually a PRO, standing right in front in the ground floor, giving a hearing ear to my customers' requirements. But even in that, what I found was the advantages of having women staff, lady staff. The ladies, they're very good at multitasking. They are really dedicated. They have a strong determination. They're very communicative. They like to talk. They're responsible. They don't hop jobs. And above all, they try to understand what is the use of a product, because they are very familiar with the kitchen and they also have a house to run. So they are interested. If a new product comes to the store, they actually go and see what is this used for. Extra. So I'll just give you a small example what happened last week. This is all about communication, and about 10 days back, I had a wedding party who had come, a wedding party, a family of 4. Father, mother, son and daughter. The son is getting married. So they had in fact come to Kalyan. They're coming from Trivandrum. They came to Thrissur to do their wedding purchase. So after finishing their textile purchase, they came to the hypermarket and they wanted to buy maybe some crockeries or whatever for their house. So they just dropped in. And as they walked in, the father asked my PRO, who's a lady, where can I find crockeries? So she understood that this gentleman is coming to the store for the first time. So she immediately asked, sir, are you coming here for the first time? He said, yes. But sir, you're not from Thrissur. He said, no, I'm not from Thrissur. I'm from Trivandrum. I'm coming for the first time. Okay. Then she asked his history and all those things. And she went along with him to the second floor to get the crockeries. He said he wanted 4 sets of plates and cutleries, 4 sets of cutleries. Immediately she said, sir, why don't you make it 5? This gentleman is, no, I wanted only 4. Why should I buy 5? Arey, sir, you are telling that you have got a 5th person coming into the family. Is this the way you're welcoming her? That man was spellbound. So this doesn't involve anything. This just requires a common sense. So when my staff told such a thing, he was so happy. And he waited, he wanted to meet me, tell this in person and then leave. So this is just a common sense that matters. So this is just a small incident that I wanted to share with you. Okay. But at the same time, what we found was women, be it in any field, what they lack is the financial literacy is completely zero in them. So of course, since I'm talking to a bunch of financial experts, it would be good if you can do some kind of a drive or something, so that a seminar or something, so that you're able to educate the women about the financial benefits that they can get. I believe you have to start a business or something. There is a lesser rate of interest as far as loan is concerned, and all those things. If something like that is given to them, it would be great for some kind of a lesson or a training, because it's financial illiteracy. Financial literacy is zero. Same is the case with financial insecurity also. The feel of insecurity is there. That is also growing day by day. If I start something, all of them povo. That is the kind of feeling many of them have. So another example for this is, we have a lot of homemakers here. They make a lot of snacks with our local snacks are made. So people want to do something. In fact, the other day, a lady had come, she had lovely snacks with her. It was mixture, pakoda, everything made at home. But then she didn't have a GST number. I said, it is a packed food. If I have to keep it in my store, I will definitely be needing a GST number. Oh no, GST I cannot take. Then I will have tax problem. So there the topic gets cut. She didn't even ask me what are the advantages of taking a GST. She just cut the talk by telling, no. Then I will have tax problem. So this is the kind of preconceived notion many of them are having. So I think you people will be able to do a better role in that. And as I said, my co-sister and I, we take care of the hypermarket, and we have divided it into 2 sections because this is all done after 1 year into the supermarket business, because we found it really, she's a software engineer. So she takes care of the logistics part, and I, being into HR, so I take care of meeting people, placement of products, marketing, all those things. And I can proudly say that we were one among the first few supermarkets in Kerala to start online shopping. And we also upgraded it to an app facility that can be downloaded in both Android and Apple phones. We launched it as early as December 2017, but it gained importance only during the COVID season. And we wanted to do something in our supermarket to make it more women interactive. And so we came out with some interactive sessions like cake mixing session and cake baking competition during Christmas, payasam making competition during Onam, so that the hidden talents or hobbies of women just come out and they do something. And this is actually an interactive session. It is very nice. Last year, in fact, just before the second outbreak of COVID, that is this year, March 2021, we celebrated the Women's Day in a big manner. It was a 3-day program where 2 days it was fully covered by Club FM. And we had the free blood test, mehendi, palmistry, threading, whatnot, many interesting things. And of course, lots of gift vouchers and freebies too. So to be a successful entrepreneur, one has to be both efficient and effective. Efficient management is doing things right, and effective management is doing the right things. So unless we have these two put together, our competitors are there waiting for us to fall and will pounce on us, and we soon become their prey. But I know I've seen now more and more women entrepreneurs are engaged in unique field of business. And maybe that is the reason why Mrs. Sheila Kochausep, ma'am, in 2016, started a charitable trust in the name of WEN, Women Entrepreneurs Network, which is almost close to 200 women entrepreneurs only from Cochin. And WEN has started its branch in Thrissur on September 4th, and it has got close to 125 women entrepreneurs. Same is the case with Inaugural. The Inaugural of Thrissur is also coming out with a directory of ladies who are engaged in various services. That is, you have ladies on call, then she auto, tailors on call. So many. I think they have almost collected close to 100 people. So I think I'm almost done. I don't want to bore you because this is already afternoon. And so I'll just cut it short. So embrace yourself as a woman in all its glory. This is your superpower. You are a queen and your soul is your royalty. With these thoughts, I would like to conclude my talk. I hope you all enjoyed as much as I did in front of this lovely audience. With this, I proudly inaugurate Jwala 2021 and wishing the entire team all success. Thank you so much.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you for your auspicious presence and for your words of wisdom. Your journey was so inspiring for each of us. Thank you for spending your valuable time with us. Thank you so much.
Thanks a lot.
Now we are going to introduce our conference director, CA Babu Abraham Kallivailil, sir, who is a constant supporter and motivator. I welcome CA Preeta Shenoy for the formal introduction.
I think every one of you knows me.
Sir, just a formal introduction.
Thank you, Gayathri. Respected dignitaries, senior members of the profession, and my dear fellow members, a very good afternoon to one and all. The duty entrusted to me today is to introduce a person who has 34 years of standing as a practicing chartered accountant, CA Babu Abraham Kallivailil. CA Babu Abraham graduated in Commerce from University of Kerala and became member of our institute in 1987. He is the founder and managing partner of Babu A. Kallivail and Company Chartered Accountants at Ernakulam, which started in the year 1991. Starting at the branch level, CA Babu Abraham became chairman of Ernakulam branch during 1998-99. He is the founder president of All Kerala Chartered Accountants Association and founder trustee of All Kerala Chartered Accountants Welfare Trust. Both these organizations support cause of our members in Kerala. From 2004 to 2013, he served as member of SIRC of ICAI. During his three-term association, he even worked as a chairman in 2010-11. CA Babu Abraham re-elected as member of the Central Council of ICAI in 2019 for third term and now holds responsibilities as chairman, expert advisory committee, and chairman, committee for members in entrepreneurship and public service. He took lead in organizing the first ever campus placement for CAs and accountants overseas, which was a thumping success and a great support for newly qualified chartered accountants and semi-qualified abroad. He is selected as a member of Public Sector Financial Management Committee of the Confederation of Asia and Pacific Accountants. He will represent India in the committee for 4 years, effective from June 2021. In spite of being professionally busy, Babu sir have dedicated time for social causes too. Was the former treasurer of Bharatiya Vidya Bhavan, Kochi Kendra, founder trustee of Sampurna, a school for children with special needs. Commitment, consistency, and passion. These are the qualities which helped CA Babu Abraham to become what he is today. Ladies and gentlemen, let us wholeheartedly welcome our dear Babu sir to Jwala 2021. Thank you.
Thank you, Preeta, for that detailed introduction.
Thank you.
Chairman of the branch, Irene, Vice Chairman Ajit, Secretary Jean, President of the Women's Club Bindu, and Conference Director Shilpa Ramdas, and the large number of members who are on the fairer side who has joined for this Jwala 2021. At the outset, let me congratulate and also the chief guest of the day, Mrs. VARDHINI Prakash, Director Kalyan Supermarket, who has made a brilliant address on sharing her own experience as well as requirements to be a successful entrepreneur or a leader. I think it is applicable to all of us. I think one has to be efficient and effective if you want to be successful. And today, I think ladies are, I think hardly there is any gender difference in any field. And take our own profession. Today, almost 1/4 of our profession is lady members. And almost more than 36% of the students are girls. That shows this profession is going to be taken over by ladies. We have a representation in the Central Council, a lady representative, Kemisha Soni, and also in the Regional Council. And I think through Kerala also now having lady chairpersons. Therefore, it is nothing new. And I am very glad and happy that lady members are coming to the mainstream, to the leadership. They have always been part of, but at times they have been little hesitant to take up the leadership positions. But today they have been coming forward to take leadership positions. And our country is also not an exception. As the Chief Guest said, the Honorable Finance Minister, who is holding the key of the progress of this country, is led by a lady, Mrs. Nirmala Sitharaman. Whether from Indira Gandhi to Indira Nui, we have seen very, very successful leaders in various spheres of life, not only in politics, but also in other fields also. They have, and internationally also. If you see, it is also becoming an order of the day, whether the former German Chancellor Angela Merkel or Theresa May of UK or Hillary Clinton or whoever be, through the world, now ladies are actively taking part in the development process, while also holding their responsibilities. That is a beauty. They have always sharing a dual responsibility. And it is quite glad that Thrissur branch has formed this women's club, and women's club is very active, and I think Shilpa has started with that, and she is ably being supported even today. It's a good initiative. Undoubtedly, it's a good initiative. And my suggestion is now the branch elections are going to come up in January, and the women's club should put up some of the lady members to the branch managing committee to take leadership. And as the Chief Guest said, they have now, ladies have proved their commitment and capability, and they are more hardworking and dedicated to the cause. Therefore, we need good leaders at various levels. Today, the institute challenge is we are not getting the right leaders at all levels. In certain branches, there are not enough leaders to take up leadership positions. That's a kind of, it's not, because many a time we all consider working for the institute is not a very productive. See, I always believe that the strength of the chain is the strength of the weakest link in the chain. Therefore, the reputation of individual members matters. There is no Institute of Chartered Accountants of India without all of us together. If something is wrong at the institute, it is we all together are responsible for that. Therefore, we cannot be onlookers. We need to take active part in the development and progress of the institute to make the flag of the institute fly high. No doubt, in 75 years of legacy, we have built up this institute as one of the most reputed professional bodies across the globe. But we cannot stop that. There are a lot of challenges before us, and we need good leaders. I wish all the very best to Jwala 2021, and once again, congratulations to the organizers for organizing this wonderful webinar. Thank you.
Thank you, Babu sir. Thank you for your inspirational words. Thank you for your constant support for all our programs. The chairman of SIRC of ICAI, CA Jalapati sir, consented to address this gathering but could not show up due to personal reasons. He has conveyed his best wishes and blessings in his absence. We thank him for the sincere support he has extended for this program. Thank you, Jalapati sir. Now, it is time to bring in our conference convener, the most active member of Women's Club, CA Shilpa Ramdas. Even though she doesn't need an introduction for the Thrissur branch members, I invite CA Anjana to formally introduce her to the members today, attending the webinar today. Over to CA Anjana.
Thank you, Gayathri. Good afternoon, all. I'm profusely overjoyed to take the opportunity to introduce our own vibrant lady CA member, CA Shilpa Ramdas. As you all know, and as Gayathri said right now, she doesn't require any introduction as she is a well-recognized member of our branch. Yet, the occasion demands, and here it is in brief. She qualified in the year 2002 as a chartered accountant and started practice in the year 2003. She joined the firm Ramdas and Vennikkal in the year 2004. She has done 2 post-qualification courses and 1 certification course of ICAI and has been in continuous practice for the past 17 years. She was the chairperson of CA Women's Committee of Thrissur branch of SIRC of ICAI in 2018 and took charge as the first lady chairperson of Thrissur branch of ICAI on February 2019. She was the pioneer in introducing Jwala, the all-lady CA conference in the year 2019, which is witnessing its 3rd season today, being the most celebrated flagship program of our branch. With all those said, I welcome CA Shilpa Ramdas to Jwala.
Thank you, Anjana. That was a wonderful introduction. Thank you very much. Hope I'm audible.
Yes.
Okay. One of the leading business magnates of Thrissur and our chief guest, Mrs. VARDHINI PRAKASH, the conference director and our central council member, our own CA Babu Abraham Kallivailal, the chairman of Thrissur branch, CA Irene KK, CA Jalapati K, the SIRC chairman, who had consented to be our special guest in his absentia, other committee members, ex officio member, respected senior members of the profession who always support all initiatives of professional interest, other dignitaries who have joined the virtual meeting, my dear students and friends. A warm good afternoon to one and all assembled here. So now Jwala 2021 has already been rolled out. It has been inaugurated and we have kickstarted Jwala. And we all know it's a platform for the budding lady speakers. And we had been proudly carrying on this for 3 years, including this year. It is the 3rd season of Jwala 2021. Everyone had been speaking about Jwala 2021 so far. So I am not going to speak about what is Jwala or the purpose of Jwala, what it is meant for and all that. I will speak about 2 persons who are in our midst today. 2 important persons, one being our chief guest. You all heard her. You know who she is. All of you know her, Mrs. VARDHINI PRAKASH. She is from the Kalyan family, the most famous family in Thrissur district. And all of you know that they own the biggest textile empire in South India. And the biggest thing about, she asked me, what is the reason of selecting her as the chief guest? I should say, what I find in her is that from the comfort of her home, that is being in a very comfortable position, coming out to the public to do something is different. That makes a person different. That makes a lady different. She came out to the public to take up the hypermarket, to manage the thousands of laborers, the thousands of workers, and all those responsibilities to be the executive director of Kalyan hypermarket. And that makes her special. And I want to urge each one of you assembled here, each one of the lady professionals, non-professionals, or students, whoever it be, come out of the shell. Come out of the shell in which you are. You are comfortable inside a shell, being a daughter or a daughter-in-law or a wife or a sister or any other position. You are very comfortable in that shell. Try to come out of that shell. Only then you will build up yourself. Have you dreamt of a day where you will be known in your name? I have been called as Miss Ramdas or Mrs. Shajan at various stages, but the happiest moment is when somebody would say as, call me as CA Shilpa, the happiest moment in my life, because I can be known in the name of any other person, but to be known in my own name is something different and special. I want each and every person, every lady assembled in this conference to make an identity for themselves. And VARDHINI is such a person who has come out with her enormous efforts. Whether she is efficient or doing things effectively is a different thing. She has made her identity known. That is the difference with her. Then the second person I'm going to speak about is our 9th rank holder, Shruti PS. She is also here. So speaking about Shruti, I had been talking to her. So she said that she started her CA journey in the year 2009. 2009, that is somewhat 10, 11 years back. She started her CA journey. And she completed her articleship in the year 2014, 2011 to 14. She did her articleship, completed her articleship in 14. And in 15, she got married. And in 2017, she gave birth to a cute little boy. And you know what happened in 2020? She emerged as the 9th whole India rank holder of CA final, being the Kerala topper. What do you call it? Is it perseverance or is it passion towards profession? What do you call it? I don't know how to call it because it is sheer coming out of the shell. That is what exactly she did. You can be comfortably leading your life as a pet daughter or a wife or a mother. You can enjoy your motherhood. You can do anything in your life, but to come out of everything, to make an identity for yourself is different. And Shruti has done it. So I just wanted to highlight both of these persons in front of you, how to come out of all your odds, how to come out of all these things, take up responsibilities and be successful. So I urge each one of you know that I was the first lady member to come to the Thrissur branch committee and to become the chairperson. I don't have anything special to do. I don't have any special any special things for becoming the chairperson or something. I see many other persons who are equally qualified to come into this position. So I'll be handing over the baton this year, that is in 2022, the new committee has to come. And I urge each one of you in this Lady CA Women's Club to come up, to take up the election, to come into the committee. As Babu sir said, this year, I was the only lone lady member in the committee. I should say at least 2 members should come up in 2022 to take up all the responsibilities, to work in the committee, to work for your passion and be successful. Listen, ladies, our life is like heart. You know, there are 4 chambers for a heart. Which are those 4 chambers? The first and the most bulkiest chamber is always its family. And the next is our career. These has to be balanced very beautifully for the life to move on. And there is a 3rd chamber, and that is your passion. There is always a passion which drives you. It might be singing, it might be dancing, or you might be an artist. There is something called passion. And there is a 4th chamber for the heart, and that is your social life. You might be a JC member, you might be a Rotarian, you might be a Lion, or you might be a trustee in a special school. You will be having different passions. So these 4 things you have to manage, the 4 chambers of the heart. If these 4 chambers of the heart work harmoniously, then you will be considered as a happy person. The priorities differ at different points of life. Priorities differ, but try to set priorities where something is important, try to attend to it, and at the second time, try to attend to the other chamber of the heart. Only then you will be a successful person. With these few words, let me wind up. Thank you very much for the opportunity. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you for addressing us. Your words were so inspiring to break the shell and prove our identity. Thank you so much for your constant support. Now we are going on to a special program. We are going to honor the All India rank holder CA Shruti PS, who hails from Thrissur. And we are going to ask her to share her experience of how she became a rank holder. I welcome CA Mini to introduce CA Shruti to all of us.
Hello. Hello, am I audible?
Yes, Mini.
Yes. Thank you, Gayathri. Yeah, a red carpet welcome to one and all on this splashing day, illuminated with the galaxy of superstars of our fraternity. Jwala 2021, personal pride to see our own members rise and shine. I bow with gratitude to all for making up to this occasion. It's my indeed a great honor and privilege to young dynamic Charishma with a meritorious achievement, CA Shruti PS, the top and the final examinations of CA, bagging 9th rank and making indelible mark in the merit records in the November 2020 examination. CA Shruti PS joined the stream of Chartered Accountancy course in 2009 when she gave her CPT exams in December 2009. Later, in 2011, she started her articleship with P.K. Jain and Company. November 2013, she gave her first attempt of CA finals. In 2015, she entered into the wedlock. Amidst all, she was working, managing the home, and pursuing the studies. In 2017, Shruti became a mother to her tiny prince. Fighting against all odds, she still pursued the course with indomitable spirit. She never missed the exams till she nailed it in November 2020. With much pompous and pride, I introduce mentor, hero for the youngsters, a girl with cusp of glory, C.S. Shruti PS, to this August gathering. Shruti, a standing ovation to you. Welcome to the floor.
Thank you. Thank you so much for this wonderful introduction. I feel very honored to be here. I feel very proud. It's a very proud moment for me. And thank you for inviting me.
Thank you, Mini, for the introduction, and welcome, C.A. Shruti. Now, let us hear from C.A. Shruti. I welcome Shilpa ma'am to have a conversation with her.
Hi, Shruti.
Hi, ma'am.
So a couple of things all of us would like to know from you. Okay.
Okay.
I'll ask some questions and you may answer to those questions. So what we feel,
Sure.
what we want to know about you.
Sure,
First thing
ma'am.
is articleship. Everyone says that articleship is the most difficult part of CA life. That is the 3-year articleship. You have to work, you have to study, you have to write exams, everything. So what do you think? Articleship, is it an integral part of your success? Or do you think that articleship has added something to your success?
Yes, ma'am, definitely. Articleship was it's an integral part of my success. I must say it was not just in the form of work experience or the work exposure you are getting from the work, because it had been around 6 or 7 years since I had completed my articleship. So the work I was doing, I had forgotten most of the work I have doing there, but some of the other experiences, some of the other life experiences were there for me to memorize for all of my throughout my entire life. I would like one of my experience was it was during the articleship period. We are getting in touch with this chartered accountant closely. And we are witnessing the respect and the social recognition ACA is getting from the society. And it helped me to visualize my professional life as well. And we are seeing our colleagues being qualified and the changes that are happening to their life. So all this motivated me to work hard. And I did my articleship under, say, P.K. Jain, sir, in Thrissur. And I still remember some of the life lessons he would given to all of us. I still remember one example he was giving to us about the planning. He used to tell, like, if we start constructing a building without a plan, it will not be a building. It will be a wall only. He used to say like this, irrespective of the experienced workers or the quality of materials or the number of working days, it will not be a building unless there is a proper plan. And this is similar in the case of audit also. And he used to say, like, without an audit plan, it will not be a proper audit, like that. So I still remember, I used to remember this throughout my life, whether it is a household work or it's a, let it be, exam preparation. I realized the importance of planning from him, and he used to tell the importance of professionalism that has to be maintained by us throughout the life. So I remember some of the life lessons that I got from my articleship period, and definitely other the what to say, work experiences, like the work exposures that we are getting in the field of income tax, company audit, and all those definitely help me to to prepare for the exams as well, because the practical experience is something that we never forget in our life, and we can always connect the real life examples in the exams as well. So articleship experience was very important for me.
Okay, okay. Jain sir can be proud of having a student like you. As Jain sir said, it's as good as building a foundation for a building. If the foundation is not strong, the building won't be strong.
Yeah.
Thank you for giving such a good answer to the question. Then the next 4 questions I have tailored in such a manner that it would be more for the student side, not for the members. And the second question is more or less like you have 4 choices, you have to choose from that. What do you think is similar to CA course from the following? Okay. Walking in a railway tunnel. The next is walking on a rope. And the third is a cakewalk, an easy thing. And the fourth is swimming the Pacific Ocean. What would you say CA course is like?
Okay, it's definitely not a cakewalk.
Okay, so delete that option.
Yeah, I would like to compare my CA journey with swimming the Pacific Ocean because I had 2 options. I could have just gone with the waves. I would have reached somewhere, but it might not be my dream destination. I would have reached somewhere else because I was in such a comfort zone that so I had a dream, and I had a clear-cut dream, and I was so determined that I should reach there. And sometimes I had to swim against the waves, but I was sure that I will reach there once. And now
Okay.
I'm there, and
Very good.
that too with a bonus of an All India rank.
Okay.
So looking behind, I am so much proud and satisfied about my journey.
Okay.
That's all.
And please describe on the methodologies which you adopted, whether it was self-study or attending classes. What were the methodologies? In brief, can you tell the students how did you follow your study time?
Okay, sure, ma'am. At first, I had no time to attend any classes because I have a family. I had my kid was around 3 years old when I started my studies. So it was impossible for me to attend the regular classes. So I decided to do self-study only. But there was some really good YouTube videos which were helping me to get in touch with the subjects, and there I found the real benefit of social media because there are so much real good content available on social media in YouTube as well as on Telegram channels, and I made the best use of them. And I used ICAI materials only for studies, and for direct tax only I went for online classes. At first, I was doing self-study for DT also, but as the May 20 exam was cancelled, I got enough time to prepare, and I decided to go for online classes for DT because DT was a nightmare for me coming to CA final. So I didn't wanted to lose this time because of DT. So I didn't take the risk. So I joined one online class for direct tax. It was by one sir from Pune. His name is CA Kedar Junarkar. It was a online class for about 130 hours, and I had attended that. For all other subjects, I had done self-study only. I was doing, preparing notes from study material and doing self-study only.
So you're a real brilliant student because you did somewhat 75% self-study and the rest 25% only you went for the classes. Excellent. Yeah. And how did you manage the quintessential part, family versus study? How did you manage it?
Yeah, ma'am. I still remember it's all because of support of my family that I achieved all this, because they were so much supportive, both mentally and physically. And you all know it would be impossible for me to attend the exams with my kid, even the support is not there. Yes. And they shared my responsibilities in many ways, and I had to manage my studies only for some days, even for some days, and even my in-laws were very much supportive for me. They actually understood my passion, and they were by my side all the day.
That's the biggest thing. The
Yeah.
person should understand your passion and work for it. Others
Yeah.
should also have the the willingness to support you. And you have got it. You're a blessed kid anyway. So the last and the final question. You know that CA is meant for failures. The
Yeah.
course CA, even if you happen to be a +2 rank holder or a degree rank holder, coming to CA, at some point of time, you will have to face failure. So what will be your advice to the students who have already faced failures? And how do you suggest that they should come up and motivate themselves and get over the failures and continue to work hard? How to do it? What will be your advice?
Okay, I think most of us have heard that CA's in CA, CA is like a boxing game, and the failure is not declared when we fail. It is declared when we refuses to get back. So it's really true. We face failures, but whenever you think of quitting, just think why you started this, and the answer to that question might probably give you a justification for not quitting. So I think all of us started CA for a reason. Let it be financial independence or social recognition. So whatever it is, we did it. We started this journey with much dreams and hopes. So there is no question of losing hope, or we just begin. We just begin from the day where we are. I used to think like there are many women out there who are working, who manage work and family, and who are excelling in everything. So we don't have to wait for any miracles to happen in our life to start something new. So just begin from where we are, and if our passion is that much that much genuine and true, it will happen. And that's all.
Okay. What about your future plans? You plan to come into practice or work for the industry? What are your future plans?
Actually, ma'am, my husband work in UAE, so we have a plan to shift to UAE, and I will be working there.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So that's for the plan.
Okay. Thanks and all the best. So she has given a very clear message to you. Just think before quitting. Why did you start this? So all the students out there, Shruti has given a very clear message at any point of time. It's not only for students, even for us. We should think why we started this. Just think of the purpose why we started this, and you won't quit it. So that is the answer which Shruti has given. And I think it is a very important message to persons of any age. Thank you, Shruti, for being with us. And I hand over the session to our MC, CA Gayathri Sukumar. Gayathri.
Thank you, CA Shruti, for inspiring all of us. You are truly a gem, and you have amazed all of us with your determination and perseverance. Thank you so much for accepting our invitation and coming here. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for inviting me.
We are about to end the inaugural session, and as a token of our gratitude, we are presenting a virtual memento to our chief guest, Mrs. VARDHINI PRAKASH. Let me request our manager, Mr. Sumesh, to virtually display the memento. Thank you so much, ma'am, for being
Thank you so
with
much.
us.
Accepted wholeheartedly. Thank you so much.
This certificate, this physical certificate will reach you.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Now, in the presence of our conference director and central council member, CA Babu sir, and all other dignitaries, let's honor our All India rank holder, CA Shruti, with a memento.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, all.
Thank you for being here with us.
Okay.
Now, before moving on to the technical session, to close the inaugural session officially, I welcome the Secretary of Women's Club, CA Dhanya for the formal vote of thanks.
Good afternoon, everyone. It's my privilege and honor to propose vote of thanks to all the dignitaries and participants. Good afternoon, everyone. It's my privilege and honor to propose vote of thanks to all the dignitaries and participants of the inaugural session of Jwala 2021. Respected chief guest of the event, Mrs. VARDHINI Prakash, special guest CA Jalabadi K, conference director CA Babu Abraham Galivayil, conference convener CA Shilpa Ramdas, chairman of Thrissur branch CA Aryan KK, Thrissur Women's Club President CA Bindu SS, rank holder CA Shruti PS, and all other dignitaries and other members who participated in this virtual inauguration. I wish to express our gratitude to the chief guest of today, the bold and charming Mrs. VARDHINI Prakash, for being with us and inaugurating this conference. Your presence was motivating and your words are a source of encouragement for all of us. Thank you, ma'am. Thank you so much. I also wish to express our gratitude to our conference director, CA Babu Abraham Kalivailil, our Center Council member, for providing encouragement and support to make this function a great success. I owe you a special thanks for being here, finding time for this webinar in the midst of a very busy schedule. I would like to thank our conference convener, CA Shilpa Ramdas, the first chairperson of Thrissur ICAI, for joining us, and also for the abundant effort made by her as a convener from the planning stage itself. I would like to thank our pride and the All India 9th rank holder, CA Shruti PS, for being with us. I am very grateful to the chairman of Thrissur branch of ICAI, CA Aryan KK, vice chairman CA Ajit Kaimal, secretary CA Jean Paul, past chairman CA Anup G, and all other branch committee members for giving us an opportunity to organize this event and standing as strong pillars of support. Further, I am grateful to CA Bindu SS, the president of Thrissur branch of SIRC of ICAI. Last but not the least, I have no words to express my thankfulness to all the dignitaries, senior members, fellow members, students, and all other delegates who have witnessed this inaugural session and made it a memorable and a successful event. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Dhanya ma'am. We are directly moving to the technical session. Due to the time constraints, questions were requested in advance. Okay, sorry. So, thank you, Dhanya ma'am. We are directly moving to the technical sessions. Due to the time constraints, questions were requested in advance, and we have received a few questions regarding the topics to be presented. Let us try to avoid raise hand option and live queries for smooth conduct of the conference.
So once again, thank you for all those who have joined for the inaugural session. We are moving on to the first technical session. So I thank you for making the inaugural session live and successful. Thank you very much.
Now, to start the technical function, I call Ashwini Ashok, CA Ashwini Ashok, to introduce the speaker, the first speaker of today's technical session. Ashwini, please.
Yeah, thank you, Gayathri. Good evening, everyone. I'm really happy to introduce the speaker of the session, CA Babitha T. She completed her graduation from Sri Kerala Varma College in 2007. Later, she did articleship at Joe and Billy Chartered Accountants firm. She cleared CA final in 2015 and has done post-qualification course in DISA. And she is currently practicing in Joe and Billy Chartered Accountants firm. Let's welcome her.
Thank you, Ashwini. A very good afternoon to all. First of all, I would like to thank Thrissur branch of SIRC of ICAI and Women's Club of Thrissur branch of SIRC of ICAI for giving me this opportunity. Let's come to the topic, taxation of foreign income in India. The tax liability of a person under the Income Tax Act depends upon the residential status, source of income, and the receipt of income. Because the residential status in a financial year, which determines what income is taxable and what cannot be taxed. The residential status is dealt in Section 6 of the Income Tax Act. Individuals and HUFs both has three types of residential status: resident and ordinarily resident, resident but not ordinarily resident, and non-resident. But the associates like firm, LLP, AOP, BOI, company, etc. has two types of residential status, resident and non-resident. First, let's check the residential status of individual. An individual is said to be resident in India if he satisfies any one of the following two conditions. First condition is he is in India for a period of 182 days or more during the relevant previous year, or he is in India for a period of 365 days or more during the 4 preceding previous years and 60 days or more during the relevant previous year. Here, the period of stay. How to compute the period of stay? It has to include the number of days starting from the date of arrival and to the date of departure. And stay in territorial waters also included. That means if you stay in a ship or boat moved in the territorial waters means 12 nautical miles into the sea from the India coastline. If you stayed there, that also counted for computing the number of days of stay in India. The continuous period of stay is also not required. The total aggregate number of days in India is counted. But the second condition of 60 days during the relevant previous year is substituted as 182 in some cases. First case is a citizen of India lives for employment or as a crew member of an Indian ship. Second case is Indian citizen or person of Indian origin who is being outside India and who comes to a visit in India. In that case also, the period 60 is counted as 182 days. But 60 days is counted as 120 days due to in consequence of a recent amendment. As per if an individual being a person of Indian origin who comes to a visit in India and his Indian income, excluding the foreign income, his Indian income is greater exceeds 15 lakhs. In that case, the second condition of 60 days is considered as 120 days. And a special case is there in the case of a crew member of a Indian ship, foreign bound Indian ship. In that case, an explanation to section 6 subsection 1 is inserted. As per the explanation, it is said that it is to be computed in the prescribed manner. Okay, The manner is prescribed in Rule 126 of Income Tax Rules. It was inserted by CBDT Notification Number 70/2015, dated 17/8/2015. As per this rule, the case of an Indian citizen and who is a crew member of a foreign going ship, the period does not include, that means period of stay does not include date entered into the continuous discharge certificate commencing from the date of joining of the ship till the date entered into the continuous discharge certificate as date of signing off by that individual in the discharge certificate. But this case is in respect of eligible voyage. What is meant by an eligible voyage? Eligible voyage means it is a voyage undertaken by a ship for carriage of passenger or freight in international traffic, which involves origination from a port in India and to the destination port outside India, or and from an origination port outside India and a destination port in India, then only it become eligible voyage. In the case of eligible voyage, this period to be excluded in the case of an Indian citizen. Okay. Then what is meant by continuous discharge certificate? Continuous discharge certificate is as defined in Merchant Shipping Continuous Discharge Certificate cum Seafarers Identity Document Rules 2001. Next is a deemed resident. In the case of individual, deemed resident concept is there. Deemed, for being a deemed resident, he must be first be a citizen of India, and he has a total Indian income excluding from foreign sources. It exceeds 15 lakhs. Then he is not liable in any other tax. Then he is deemed to be resident in India. But 120 to 182 days cases mentioned in section 6 subsection 1, that cases are not covered here. This, if satisfies these conditions, this person is considered as deemed resident in India. Section 6 subsection 6 defines resident but not ordinarily resident. If an individual satisfies any one of the following four conditions, he will be considered as resident but not ordinarily resident. An individual is said to be an individual is non-resident in 9 out of 10 preceding previous years, or he has been in India for a period of 729 days or less during the 7 preceding previous years, or deemed resident under section 6 subsection 1A, or Indian citizen or person of Indian origin having total income exceeding 15 lakhs, has been in India for a period of 120 days or more, but less than 180 days. These categories are considered resident but not ordinarily resident. Residential status of HUF. Residential status of HUF is based on control and management of HUF. If control and management of HUF is wholly or partly in India, then he is a resident. In the case of HUF, we already told there's 2 categories of resident and ordinarily resident, resident but not ordinarily resident. If control and management is wholly outside India, then HUF is non-resident. If control or management is partly or wholly in India, he is a resident. If he is a resident, if the HUF is resident, we have to check whether it is a resident and ordinarily resident or resident but not ordinarily resident. It is based on the residential status of Karta. Karta is resident in 2 out of 10 preceding previous years, plus he is in India for a period of 730 days or more during the 7 preceding previous years, then the HUF will be resident and ordinarily resident. Residential status of a company. Residential status, if the company is an Indian company, it is a resident in India. If the company is not an Indian company, then we have to check the place of effective management of the company is in India or not. Place of effective management of in management means the place where the key management and commercial decisions for the conduct of business is undertaken in India or not. If it is here, if it is in India, then it is a resident. If it is not here, then the company is not a resident here. That means company is non-resident. Residential status of AOP, BOI, firm, and artificial juridical person and local authorities are on same foot. That means control and management of its affairs situated wholly or partly in India. Yes, then it's obviously resident. If no, then it is non-resident. Based on the residential status, what income is taxed and what income cannot be taxed in the assessee's hands is determined. The assessee is a resident and ordinarily resident. Income received in India, deemed to be received in India, accruing or arise in India, deemed to accrue or arise in India. Everything is taxable. And moreover, income accruing or arising outside India is also taxable in the case of resident and ordinarily resident. But in the case of resident but not ordinarily resident, income received or deemed to be received in India, and income accruing or deemed to accrue or arise in India, income accrue are taxable, but income accruing or arising outside India, but subject to a condition. That means only a particular category of income is taxed in the hands of resident but not ordinarily resident. In the case of non-resident, income received or deemed to be received, and income accruing or arising or deemed to accrue or arise in India is taxable. Income accruing or arising outside India is not taxable in the hands of non-resident. A clarification was issued by the department. If remuneration received by a non-resident seafarer, he's a non-resident, and his income is received in NRE account maintained with Indian Bank. In that case, that remuneration will not be included in the total income of that non-resident. It is given by department through two circulars, circular number 13/2017 and circular number 17/2017. Tax treatment of foreign income. It has various elements that is depicted in this PPT. We have to check one by one. Okay. The tax liability of a resident on his foreign income. Foreign incomes, in the case of resident and ordinarily resident, all incomes are, that means global income is taxable here. So income arising or accruing outside India is also taxable here. And even though it is not brought into India, no escape from tax liability. But if the laws of that country restrict the remittance to India, then the department cannot initiate proceedings for recovery of tax. Tax liability of on foreign income of a person not ordinarily resident. In the case of, we've seen that in the case of person not ordinarily resident, income received in India is taxable, income deemed to accrue arise in India is taxable, and income accrue or arise outside India is also taxable, subject to certain things now. These are if it is derived from a business controlled in or profession set up in India, or if it is received or deemed to be received in India, or if it is deemed to accrue or arise to him in India during such year. What is meant by business controlled or profession set up in India? Business control in India, the expression business control in India means it is the head and brain of the trading adventure should be situated in India and should direct the business activities from India. Okay. And profession is also covered here. Profession includes vocation also. If a profession is established abroad and continued and established later in India and continued here, it will be considered as a profession set up in India. And if just book entries in the Indian books does not amount to receipt of income from abroad. Because if income is actually accrues and received in foreign country, and just a entry made in the Indian books does not conclude that income is taxable here. Next is deemed to accrue or arise in India. What is the importance of deemed to accrue or arise in India? Because income actually arises or accrues outside India, but it is deemed as accrued or arise in India. Only because of that, it became taxable here. There are various categories of incomes are deemed to accrue or arise in India. They are income accrued or arise outside accrued or arise in a foreign country through a business connection in India, or a property situated in India, or an asset or source of income in India. Then next is salary, dividend, interest, royalty, fee for technical services, sum of money paid without consideration by a resident Indian. I'll check one by one. Section 9 talks about deemed to accrue or arise in India. Income accruing or arising outside India through or from a business connection in India. Then first we have to check what is meant by business connection. A business connection shall include any business activity carried out through a person acting on behalf of a non-resident. It is by way of explanation due to section 9, subsection 1, clause 1. Okay. For a business connection to be established, the person acting on behalf of the resident must have authority to habitually conclude the contracts on behalf of the non-resident, or habitually conclude or habitually plays a vital role to conclude the contract. The contract should be entered in the name of a non-resident, and for the transfer of ownership of or for granting of the right to use or property owned by the non-resident, or that non-resident has the right to use, or for the provision of services by that non-resident. Okay. So in this case, he must have authority to habitually conclude contracts. Other item is habitually maintain stock or merchandise for that non-resident, and delivery by the person acting behalf of the non-resident is made from such stock or merchandise. In that case, also there is a business connection. Or the person acting on behalf of the non-resident habitually secures orders in India. If a person habitually secures orders for a person in India, may secure order for other non-resident also. In that case also, there may be business connection. That business connection may arise as follows. Mr. A secures orders for Mr. X, a non-resident for X. So Mr. X there is a business connection is directly established. If Mr. A secures one or two orders for Mr. Y, a non-resident, business connection is established if Mr. X is controlled by Mr. Y, or Mr. Y is controlled by Mr. X, or Mr. Z, a third person controls both Mr. X and Y. In this case, a business connection is established in the case of both non-residents. Agents having independent status not included in business connection, and general commission agents does not work mainly or wholly for the non-resident is also not covered in business connection. Significant economic presence of a non-resident also constitute a business connection. That is meant by significant economic presence. In respect of any goods or services or property carried out by a non-resident with any person in India, including provision of download of data or software in India, then the aggregate value of the payments rising from such transaction exceeds 2 crore rupees, or systematic and continuous soliciting of business activities or engaging in interaction with users in India, then the number of users should be at least 3 lakhs. In these cases, there is a significant economic presence. If there is a significant economic presence, then there is a business connection. In the case, first we talked about business connection. That next one is income from property. Here. Property or asset or source of income in India or transfer of capital assets situated. Property or asset or source of income in India means if a person who is a non-resident and he has a property in India and the lease rentals of that property is received in a foreign country, even though income is received in a foreign country, but the income is deemed to accrue in India because the property or asset is situated in India. Then next is transfer of capital asset situated in India. Here, if a property, a capital asset, an immovable property is transferred, the agreement is executed outside India and the payment is also received outside India. Even in that case, it will be deemed to accrue or arise in India, even though the amount is received there. Next is salary. Salary payable for services rendered in India. Services are rendered here, but the payments are made outside India and the contract for employment is also executed outside India. In that case, even though the payments and contract for employment is outside India, as the services are rendered here, salary is deemed to accrue or arise in India, and salary payable by government to citizen of India for services rendered outside India as tax is deemed to accrue or arise in India. But there is an exemption for allowances or perquisites given for citizens of India by the government under section 10 subsection 7. And dividend. Dividend paid by Indian company outside India is deemed to accrue or arise in India. Next items are interest, fee for technical service and royalty. All three items has to be dealt as one because if these three payments are made by government, then it is deemed, even though if it is paid outside India, it is deemed to accrue or arise in India. But if it is paid by a resident, it is also deemed to accrue or arise in India. But two exceptions are there. If the interest or royalty or fee for technical services are payable for business or profession outside India or to earn an income from any source or outside India, then it is not deemed to accrue or arise in India. Then next item is, next the interest is interest, royalty or fee for technical service is paid by a non-resident, but subject to a condition, it is deemed to accrue or arise in India if these payments are payable for business or profession set up in India. So a business or profession in India. These are the detailed chart. Here, these three payments, royalty, fee for technical service, and interest. Even though these payments are not made in India, even though these services are not received in India, but it will be deemed to occur and arise in India because I will tell you an example. If a person, Ms. Lakshmi, say gives a managerial consultancy services from a person, from a resident of Sri Lanka, and the management consultancy service is rendered where at Colombo, Sri Lanka, but it is in respect to a business of Ms. Lakshmi in India, then it is deemed to accrue or arise in India. Then, if any payment, this is the summarized chart of what we told till now. One more thing is the deemed to accrue or arise in India. If an amount is paid in excess of 50,000 by a resident Indian to a non-resident non-corporate or a foreign company, then it is deemed to accrue or arise in India. If it is in excess of 50,000 and without adequate consideration. Without consideration. Not adequate, without consideration. Next is double taxation relief. In the present era of cross-border transaction across the globe, the effect of taxation is one of the important consideration for any trade and investment decision in other countries. One of the most significant result of globalization is visible. Impact of one country's domestic tax policies on economy of another country. This has led to the need for continuously assessing the tax regimes of various countries and bringing about necessary reforms. Where a taxpayer is a resident in one country but has source of income situated in another country, it gives rise to possible double taxation. There is a two rule, source rule and residence rule. Source rule holds that income is to be taxed in the country in which it originates, irrespective of whether the income accrues to a resident or non-resident. Whereas residence rule stipulates that the power to tax should be rest with the country in which taxpayer resides. If both rules apply simultaneously to a business entity and it were to suffer tax at both ends, the cost of operating on international scale would become prohibitive and would deter the process of globalization. It is from the point of this view, double taxation avoidance agreements became very significant. Okay. The relief may be unilateral or bilateral. Bilateral relief means there is an agreement between two countries, double taxation avoidance agreement. Based on this, he gets some relief. Unilateral relief means there is no agreement between the countries, but the country where the place of residence is there, that country provides some tax relief. Bilateral relief can be provided in two ways, exemption method and tax credit method. Unilateral is credit method. In India, under section 91, a unilateral relief is that way. There are various models of double taxation avoidance agreements, so OECD model, UAN tax model, and US model. OECD model, especially between two developed countries, and UN tax model is between developed and developing countries, and US model is entered by US with various countries. Okay. Here we see exemption method. What is meant by exemption method? A particular income is taxed. Okay, only a particular income is taxed in only one of the two countries. But under tax credit method, both the countries tax the same income. But in the case of India, India will provide the foreign tax credit. If anything is paid there, it will get as tax credit. In the case of unilateral relief, the assessee should be a resident in India during the previous year in respect of which income is taxable. The income accrues or arises him outside India, and the income is not deemed to accrue or arise in India during the previous year. The assessee has paid tax on the income in foreign country, then only he can claim the tax relief under section 91 based on unilateral relief. Next is permanent establishment. Permanent establishment may be a fixed place of business through which business of an enterprise is wholly or partly carried on. Every double taxation avoidance agreement specific clause which deals with an explanation of P. Business income of a non-resident will not be taxed in India unless such non-resident has a PE in India as per DTAA. Hence we can see that first we'll see that under section 9, if there is a business connection, it can be taxed in India under income tax Okay. Under DTA, it can be taxed if there is a permanent establishment is there. Let's look into some cases. An individual resident in India having income outside India from a country with no double taxation avoidance agreement, where tax credit for tax paid on foreign income available, we see that it is available as per unilateral method. Under section 91, a tax credit is available and foreign tax credit is available, but it is may not be 100% of foreign tax paid in that country. It is based on the tax rate arrived, average of Indian tax on total income, or average, it may be at lowest of rate of average tax on total income of that individual, that person, or rate at which foreign tax is paid, whichever is less. That will be, that can be claimed as tax credit. Next case is Mr. X is a resident of both India and another foreign country in the previous year 2020-21. He owns an immobile property in both the countries. He earned income of 50 lakhs from rubber estate in foreign country during the financial year 2021. He also sold some house property situated in foreign country, resulting in short-term capital gain of 10 lakhs during the year. X has no permanent establishment of business carried on in India. However, he has derived rental income of 6 lakh from the property let out in India, and he has a house in Lucknow where he stays during his visit to India. This is a case where Mr. X is resident in both countries, both India and in a foreign country. We see that in the case of a resident, global income is taxable. So there is a situation that it may be taxed in both countries. In this case, next, what we have to check is that whether, as per double taxation avoidance agreement, there is an article that it says that if he is resident in both countries, then he will be deemed to be a resident in the country where he has a permanent home. But in this case, he has permanent home in both countries. So then it's a tiebreaker. So he will be deemed to be resident in a country where he has personal or economic relations are more closer. So in this case, he has 50 lakhs from rubber estate in foreign country, but in India he has only 6 lakhs only. So here economic relations is closer in a foreign country. Hence, he is deemed to be resident of that foreign country. Here, what will happen that the double taxation avoidance agreement overrides the income tax provision. The Supreme Court upheld the same in CIT versus PVAL Kulangadan Chettiar case in 2004. Supreme Court held that if an assessee is deemed to be resident of a contracting state where his personal and economic relations are closer, then such a case, the fact that he is resident in India to be taxed in terms of section 4 and 5 would become irrelevant, since DTAA provides over section 4 and 5. Accordingly, only the income accruing or arising or deemed to accrue or arise in India shall be taxed in the hands of Mr. X. Next case is the Income Tax Act 1961 provides for taxation of certain income earned in India by Mr. X, non-resident. But the double taxation avoidance agreement, which applies to Mr. X, provides for taxation of such income in the country of residence. Is Mr. X liable to pay tax on such income earned by him in India? Section 90 subsection 2 makes it clear that where the central government has entered into double taxation avoidance agreement with a country outside India, then in respect of an assessee to whom such agreement applies, the provisions of the Act shall apply to the extent they are more beneficial to the assessee. This means that where the DTA has been entered, the assessee can opt to be governed by the provisions of DTAA if the provisions are beneficial in comparison to the provisions of the Act. But as per section 90 subsection 4, an assessee, in order to claim relief under the agreement, has to obtain a tax residency certificate from the government of that country, declaring the residence of that country outside India. He has to file Form 10 also with the Income Tax Department. This is what I would like to share with you in the case of taxation of foreign income in India. Thank you all.
Thank you, Babitha. You have made a very detailed presentation to touch upon certain points in your presentation, which I would like to add on is the amendment which of the last budget, which provides for a reduced period of 120 days, only in cases where the total Indian income of such visiting individual during the financial year is more than 15 lakhs. So there has been a threshold of 15 lakhs while reducing this 182 to 120 days. I would like to add that point. And this scope of foreign income, following income shall not be included while computing the threshold limit of INR 15 lakhs is what is another point I would like to add as part of total income in India. That is dividend or interest income received from a resident in India, then income from business controlled in or profession set up in India, capital gain arising from transfer of a property situated in India, and capital gain arising on transfer of shares of an Indian company, capital gain arising on transfer of shares of a company which derives its value substantially from property situated in India, and rental income from a property situated in India. So these incomes shall be included while computing the threshold limit of INR 15 lakhs. All other incomes shall be kept out of its scope. So this is a special point which I thought I would add to what you have said today. And we all know that this 182 reduced to 120 is again a problem because of this COVID situation. So anyone who wants to go on a special consideration, that is they couldn't go back to their country during the stay, they have to take a special permission from the assessing officer showing the reasons that why he was not able to go back, and only on basis of that the residential status can be determined in the year 2021. That's the income tax circular. So only this point I thought I would like to add to your presentation. Then we have received a couple of questions from members. I think I'll read out the questions. Babitha, can you answer it?
Yeah, ma'am. I will.
Yeah. Please try. The first question is like, foreign investments by directors of Indian company, any of the tax haven countries like Singapore, Dubai, British Virgin Islands, Mauritius, in their individual capacity, how the taxability if all directors are residents. Then the other part of the question is how this would differ if all or some directors are NRI and business is controlled out of India. So after answering to this, I would go to the second part of the question.
Okay. And in the individual capacity, if they are resident, then global income is taxable, but you have to consider the double taxation agreement also. And as per DTA also, it is taxable. If he is a non-resident, then if the assets used in the foreign company, not more than 50% of Indian company, that means employee cost, machines, etc., then not taxable in India. Otherwise, it is taxable.
Okay, okay. And the second portion of the same question is, would the consolidation of foreign income come to Indian company if directors use same name of Indian company to foreign entity? Like they have given examples like ABC Singapore LLC and Indian company is ABC Private Limited. So the same name, what would be the implication? is the second part of the question.
Consolidated turnover of all units come to 6,400 crore, then only reporting is required. Otherwise, no need of consolidation reporting is required.
Okay. So there is a threshold limit.
Yeah.
Okay. Then the second question is like the foreign company established by NRI directors. How could they prove that foreign business is controlled outside India?
It is based on the concept of permanent establishment. By checking that, as per DTA, we can check whether it's a permanent establishment is there, or as per the business connection. Based on these concepts, we can prove that whether it has business control outside India.
Okay. Is double taxation avoidance available with Singapore and Dubai FTZ for Indian residents and corporates? Is the next question.
Yes, it's available.
It's available. Double taxation is available.
Most of the agreements are available with the income tax department website. All the agreements are there.
So in these cases, it's available, is your answer?
Yeah.
Okay. And the next question is, what are the disclosures to make an ITR about foreign income and assets of resident? How this will differ if the SSC is an NRI?
Only resident ordinarily resident has to report about foreign income and foreign assets. And there is a detailed schedules in the ITR is also there. Has to declare about financial asset and bank accounts, depositories, a lot of disclosure is there.
Okay. And the next one is how and when to obtain tax residency certificate, TRC.
TRC is to be obtained. In India, it is to be obtained by making an application form 10FA. And
10FA, okay. 10FA.
Yeah. And the TRC certificate is provided in 10FB. If in the case of if the person has to obtain the certificate from a foreign country, then he has to apply to the relevant authority in the prescribed manner of that country.
Okay.
If he has TRC in that country, we have to file 10F along with our return. We have to e-file 10F.
So I think the procedure is clear. And the last and the final question we have received is, if no double taxation avoidance agreement exists between two countries, how to claim tax credits?
If there is no double taxation avoidance agreement, Section 91 comes to play. And there is a unilateral relief for resident. As per the method, I have already discussed the same. There is a tax credit based on the Indian tax rate, average Indian tax rate, or foreign tax rate, whichever is lower. Then the SSC can claim the tax credit in the case of resident.
Thank you, Babitha. You have done a deep study of the subject and presented it in a very good manner. I know it's a very dry subject. That is, this is deemed, the word deemed comes around every time when you present it, but you have made it very interesting. Your presentation was very good. Thank you very much, Babitha. So I hand over the session to Gayathri to move on to the second technical session. Gayathri, please.
Ma'am, thank you.
Thank you, Babitha.
Thank you, CA Babitha. You clearly explained every amendment to the core area of income tax. We have got much better clarity on the topic after listening to you. We appreciate your efforts on preparing and presenting this session just after recovering from COVID last week. Thank you so much.
Okay.
Now, let's move to the second session of the day, GST input tax credit. Let me call upon CA Sandra to introduce the faculty for our second session, CA Gayathri, MB. Sandra, please.
Sandra, you're not unmuted. Please unmute yourself, Sandra. Sandra, you're not audible. Sandra?
I think there's some technical issue with Sandra's audio. So we'll move on to the second technical session, and we'll talk about our faculty after her presentation. So I welcome CA Gayathri and Vennikkal for her presentation. Gayathri, please take up the stage.
Yes, Gayathri, you may start.
A warm good morning to all the dignitaries and all my dear friends. Myself, Gayathri and Vennikkal. I cleared the CA final examination in November 2020 attempt, and I'm currently working as senior manager in Manappuram Finance Limited. First of all, I would like to thank the Thrissur branch of SIRC of ICAI for giving me an opportunity to present on the topic, that is GST input tax credit. So without wasting time, let's go and check out what is GST input tax credit. So in order to understand what is input tax credit, we need to first understand what is input tax. Input tax is the tax paid by a registered dealer on the inward supply of goods and services. Goods and services can be classified into capital goods, input, as well as input services. Capital goods means goods, the value of which will be capitalized in the books of account of the person who is claiming the input tax credit. And input means any goods which is other than the capital goods. And input services means the services which are used in the business. In order to qualify as capital goods or input service, the respective goods or service should be used in the course or in furtherance of business. So let's take an example. Suppose you are buying a product for your personal use. So my question is whether you can take the input tax credit on such product. The answer would be no. Why? Because it is not used in the course or furtherance of your business. Section 2, subsection 62 of the CGST Act defines input tax, and it includes some special inclusions as well as exclusions with regard to the input tax. So the integrated goods and service tax, which is paid under section 3, subsection 7 of Customs Tariff Act, is specifically included as input tax credit under section 2, subsection 62. It means the basic customs duty, social welfare surcharge, or whatever tax that you have paid on import of goods, it will not be eligible as input tax for the purpose of GST. Also, the tax paid under reverse charge mechanism. Reverse charge mechanism is basically means the tax will be paid by the recipient and not by the supplier. So once this tax is paid by the recipient, he can take the input tax credit because it is specifically included as input tax under section 2, subsection 62. However, the tax paid under composition levy, it will not be qualified as input tax. So, what is input tax credit? We have understood what is input tax. Input tax credit is a mechanism that at the time of payment of output tax liability, you can reduce whatever tax that you have paid on purchase of your inputs, input services, and capital goods. Let's take the example. Suppose Mr. A is a manufacturer of product D, and on sale of product D, you have to pay output tax liability of rupees 800. And for producing product D, you have availed product A, product B, product C, service C, and altogether you have paid and tax on availing these goods and services of rupees 500. So how this input tax credit mechanism works? For payment of output tax liability of rupees 800, you can reduce the tax that you have already paid on purchases, that is rupees 500, and only rupees 300 you need to pay to the government. So once we have understood what is input tax and input tax credit, let's understand how to avail the input tax credit. That means what all amounts would be reflected in your electronic credit ledger. So for availing the input tax credit, there are certain basic conditions that is specified under section 16, subsection 4. The very first condition is that you should be having a tax invoice or debit note, which is issued by a registered dealer. And as per Rule 36 sub Rule 1, you should be having RCM self-invoice or bill of entry or ISD invoices in respect of the tax on which you are going to take the input tax credit. The second condition is that there should be actual receipt of goods and services. So my question is, take the example of job worker and principal. Normally, the invoice would be issued in the name of the principal, but the goods or service it would be delivered directly to the job worker. So my question is whether the input tax credit will be available to the principal or to the job worker, because the principal has not received the goods or service. It has received by the job worker. So there is an exemption to section, the second condition to section 16, subsection 2. That is, even if the goods and services are received by a recipient, that is on the direction of the registered person, the registered person is eligible to take the input tax credit. So in the example of principal and job worker, the input tax credit will be available to the principal and not to the job worker. And where the goods are received in lots or installments, you can take the input tax credit only when the last lot or installment is received. The third condition for availing the input tax credit is the tax which the supplier has charged from you shall be actually paid to the government, either by utilizing his input tax credit or by way of electronic cash ledger. And the last condition is that the GST returns should be furnished by the supplier. So the drastic reform that has been introduced by GST is that in order to avail the input tax credit, the supplier must have deposited the tax that he has charged from you with the government, as well as he must be GST compliant to all the returns that he is obliged to file. So let's go for Rule 36 sub Rule 4. Rule 36 sub Rule 4 says that in respect of tax invoices and debit notes which have not been furnished in the GSTR 1 of the supplier, the input tax credit in respect of such tax invoices and debit notes, it shall be restricted to 5% of the input tax credit in respect of invoices and debit notes which have been furnished in the GSTR 1 of the supplier. That means the provisional input tax credit or the total input tax credit that would be available to a registered person would be restricted to 105% of eligible input tax credit as per their GSTR 2A or GSTR 2B. because we can take the input tax credit in respect of the invoices which have not been reflected in the GSTR1 of the supplier only up to 5% of the eligible input tax credit which have been reflected in the GSTR1 of the supplier. So as we all know that GSTR2A and GSTR2B is the system generated summary of invoices and debit notes which have been uploaded by the supplier. But GSTR2A, it is in respect of a tax period and it goes on changing as and when the invoices are uploaded by the supplier with respect to that tax period. But GSTR2B, it remains constant because it is in respect of a particular period, like it starts with immediately after the due date of filing GSTR1 for a particular tax period to the next due date of filing GSTR1. So practically we are taking the input tax credit which is reflected in GSTR2B for the purpose of Rule 36 Sub-Rule 4. Then, and while taking this 105% of eligible input tax credit as per GSTR2B, one must ensure that your input tax credit that you are availing, it will never exceed what all actual input tax credit that is available to you as per your books of accounts. Okay. Then Rule 36 Sub-Rule 4 specifically concentrates on tax invoices and debit notes. But as for Rule 36 Sub-Rule 1, you can take the input tax credit on the basis of RCM self-invoice, ISD invoices, as well as bill of entry. So what we can say is import ITC, that is input tax credit on import of goods, on reverse charge mechanism, on ISD invoices. It is not covered under Rule 36 Sub-Rule 4, and you can take that credit in full if it is eligible. So the basic principle behind introducing Rule 36 Sub-Rule 4 is that whatever input that you're availing in respect of an invoice, it should be reflected in the corresponding GSTR1 of the supplier. So this creates a lot of issues because it affects the working capital flow of each taxpayer. So as a measure to minimize these difficulties, now the GSTN portal has introduced a facility that is called communication between taxpayers under user services. So the recipient can update the details of missing invoices and he can upload the same, and also he can send notifications to the supplier. So what the supplier can do, the supplier can update those invoices in his GSTR1 as and when these details are received. And maximum of 100 notifications in a single GSTN can be filed with respect to a particular tax period. So this is how Rule 36 Sub-Rule 4 will be in place, and we all know that this 5% limit will also be reduced to 0% in the coming life periods. Okay. Then there is second proviso to section 16 subsection 2, which is read with Rule 37. So the second proviso to section 16 subsection 2 is basically says that whenever you are taking input tax credit in respect of an invoice or debit note, the basic principle is that you have to pay off the supplier within 180 days. So if you are unable to pay the supplier within 180 days, what happens is you have to reverse the input tax credit that has been availed to your output tax liability. And together with that, you have to pay interest at the rate of 18% per annum, and which will be triggered from the date of availing input tax credit till the date of payment of, till the date of reversal of input tax credit. So there are exceptions to the second proviso to section 16 subsection 2. That is, in these three scenarios, the 180 days payment condition would not be attracted. The very first condition is supplies which are taxable under reverse charge mechanism. So there is no condition that you have to pay off the supplier within 180 days. Then second one, Schedule 1 deemed supplies, and third one, 15 subsection 2 clause B. So what is Schedule 1 deemed supplies? Schedule 1 deemed supplies are, there are certain supplies which will be affected without consideration, but for the purpose of GST, it should be deemed as supplies. There are 4 supplies. That is, first one is permanent disposal or transfer of business assets on which input tax credit has been availed by the registered person. The second one is supply of goods and services, that is between related persons and between distinct persons, but which is in the course or in furtherance of business. The third one is supply of goods between principal and agent. And last one is import of goods from related persons or from other establishments which is outside India in the course or in furtherance of business. So for Schedule 1, these four supplies, 180 days payment condition is not attractive. And as well as Section 15, subsection 2, clause D says any amount which the supplier was liable to pay, but which has been incurred by the recipient and which has not been included in the amount actually paid, then it will be added to your value of supply. It will be added to the value of supply. So whether 180 days payment condition is applicable to that amount which is added to the value of supply, the answer is a no. So suppose this supplier is getting paid after 180 days. Okay, so whether we can take the input tax credit at the time of payment, the answer is yes. You can take the input tax credit at the time of payment to the supplier, irrespective of considering the time limit under Section 16, subsection 4. So we need to go for what is Section 16, subsection 4. 16, subsection 4 says the time limit for availing input tax credit in respect of an invoice or debit note with respect to a financial year. So as per Section 16, subsection 4, you have to take the input tax credit at the earlier of the following 2 dates. The first one is due date of filing GSTR 3D for September, which is following the end of the financial year, and date of filing annual return. Whichever date comes first, you have to take the input tax credit within that period. Let's take the example of financial year 2020-21. Suppose if the annual return, because when you consider Section 16, subsection 4, there are 2 dates. One is variable and one is fixed. What is the fixed date? That is the due date of filing GSTR 3B for September. And the variable date is date of filing annual return. So suppose for financial year 2020-21, the annual return is filed within 20th October 2021, because the due date for filing GSTR 3B for September for the financial year 2021, the following September 2021 due date will be considered. So 20th October 2021 is the due date of filing GSTR 3B and date of filing annual return. Suppose you file the annual return within 20th October 2021, then the GST input tax credit shall be applied within the date of filing annual return. But if the annual return is filed after 20th October 2021, then the input tax credit shall be applied within 20th October 2021. So that is about Section 16, subsection 4. So what we have to understand is that Section 16, subsection 4 is in a general scenario. There are certain special circumstances where ITC is available and where a separate timeline is prescribed. So let's take the example of Mr. A. Mr. A is a person who is dealing exclusively in goods. Okay, so the registration limit would be 40 lakhs. And suppose on 2nd June 2021, his registration limit exceeds 40 lakhs. So he becomes liable for registration on 2nd June. Within 30 days of becoming liable for registration, he has applied for registration and he has granted registration. That is the first scenario. Applied within 30 days of becoming liable and he has granted registration. The second one is, suppose Mr. A is going for voluntary registration. In both these scenarios, the person is getting registered for the first time as a fresh registration. So in that situation, input tax credit on input held as stock on the relevant date, on the date immediately preceding either the date of becoming liable for registration or the date of grant of registration, input tax credit on input held as stock on that particular date would be available to you. Let's take the second category of persons. That is a person who ceases to pay tax from the composition scheme. Suppose the aggregate turnover limit for composition scheme is 1.5 crores. Suppose at any point of time, the registered persons whose taxable, whose aggregate turnover exceeds the 1.5 crores limit. So he ceases to pay tax from composition scheme to regular scheme. Or in case of a registered person who is supplying goods and services which are wholly exempt from tax, and from tomorrow onwards, suppose that supplies, that is goods and services, are becoming taxable. So in this scenario, if you understand, if you carefully listen, you can understand that under this criteria, the person is already registered under the GST Act. So, in that situation, input tax credit in respect of input held as stock on the day immediately preceding the relevant date, as well as input tax credit in respect of capital goods will be available. Okay, in respect of capital goods, input tax credit as reduced by 5% per quarter will only be available. But for all these four conditions, the time limit is 1 year from the date of purchase. So the time limit is 1 year from the date of purchase. So what that implies, that is, you can take the input tax credit in respect of invoice or debit notes, which is not older than 1 year from the date of invoice. So let's take the example. Again, let's take the example of Mr. A. He has become liable for registration on 2nd June. Okay, so the day immediately preceding 2nd June is 1st June 2021. So he can take the input tax credit in respect of input held as stock on 1st June 2021. So he can take the input tax credit of inputs that are held in stock only up to which are older than only up to 1 year, that is 31st May 2020. So in respect of invoices which are dated maximum up to 31st May 2020, you can take the input tax credit. Okay. So under these special circumstances, under these four special circumstances, you would be confusing how to claim the input tax credit. That is, how this input tax credit will be reflected in your electronic credit ledger. We are using ITC 01 form for that purpose. The form ITC 01 shall be filed within 30 days of either within 30 days of registration or within 30 days of migration to the regular scheme. Then, if the claim for input tax credit is more than rupees 2 lakhs, you have to get the certification from a chartered accountant or cost accountant, and the same certificate must be uploaded in order to reflect the same in your electronic credit ledger. Then, manner of utilization of input tax credit. We all know that the GST, the tax we are paying under GST are of three types. That is CGST, SGST or UTGST, as well as IGST. Okay, so the manner of utilizing ITC is that the credit of CGST shall be first utilized against CGST payable, and balance credit, if any, shall be utilized against IGST. Likewise, the credit of SGST shall be first utilized against SGST payable, and the balance, if any, shall be paid against IGST payable. But with respect to IGST, the credit of IGST shall be first utilized against IGST payable, and balance, if any, it can be paid to CGST and SGST in any order. Sorry for disturbing. Okay, so we have to understand that cross credit utilization between CGST and SGST is not allowed. So while taking care of IGST credit, we have said like the balance credit of IGST can be utilized against SGST or CGST and SGST in any order. So a clarification is required with regard to what this any order. So Rule 88A has been introduced for the same. Rule 88A says that input tax credit of IGST shall be first utilized towards the payment of IGST. The balance input tax credit of IGST shall be first utilized fully. That means the credit of IGST shall be exhausted fully before taking the input tax credit under CGST or SGST. So it helps the taxpayers in minimizing the outflow of cash with regard to discharge of the liability. So we can understand the concept of utilization of IGST credit with an example. So here, the input tax credit under IGST is ₹1,000. The output tax liability under IGST is only ₹500. So as per Rule 88A, one has to first utilize input tax credit of 500 against the output tax liability of 500. So balance, there is input tax credit in IGST of ₹500. Okay, then we should be analyzing how to distribute the 500 balance credit of IGST between CGST and SGST so that it would reflecting minimal outlay of cash with regard to discharge of liability. Okay, so the output tax liability under CGST is 500. If we take the input tax credit of CGST, it is only 300. Likewise, for SGST also, it is 300. So this would reflect in the balance output tax liability of CGST and SGST will be 200 each. So what we are doing is we can take that 200 from IGST. Then only the balance, then only we will use the ITC under CGST or SGST towards their respective output tax liability. So under IGST, so for the output tax liability of CGST of ₹500, we are taking ₹300 from IGST and balance 200 from CGST. And for the output tax liability of 500 of SGST, we are taking ₹200 from IGST and balance ₹300 from SGST or UTGST. First, we have to understand that we need to first utilize the IGST credit fully, that is 300 to CGST and 200 to SGST. Then only we can utilize the respective input tax credit of CGST and SGST against their payment. And we will be left with ₹100 input tax credit in CGST. So there would be no outflow of cash in this input tax credit utilization. Okay. There is a recent rule, that is Rule 86B, which has been introduced with respect to a restriction on availment of input tax credit. So Rule 86B is applicable when the taxable supply, that is other than zero rated supplies and exempted supply in a particular month, exceeds ₹50 lakhs. So once your taxable supply exceeds ₹50 lakhs in a month, Rule 86B would get attracted and your utilization of input tax credit would be restricted to 99% of the output tax liability. That simply means the 1% of output tax liability you need to be paid in cash. Let's take the example of Mr. A, who has sold goods valued at ₹1 crore. So of course it is about 50 lakhs. Rule 86B is getting triggered and the tax rate is 12%. So in this case, he can discharge his tax liability up to 99% of his tax liability using input tax credit, and the balance 1% of tax liability, that is ₹12,000, it needs to be paid in cash. However, for Rule 86B, there are certain exceptions. So the exceptions means that for that person, 100% of the output tax liability can be set off using the input tax credit. The very first condition is registered person or Karta in case of HUF, partners in case of firm, or managing or whole-time director, they have paid income tax exceeding ₹1 lakh, or the refund of input tax credit on account of export under LUT or inverted duty structure in the preceding financial year, it exceeds ₹1 lakh. So what is inverted duty structure and what is export under LUT? So inverted duty structure means where the rate of tax on inward supplies is greater than the rate of tax on outward supplies. And export under LUT means we are exporting the goods under LUT or BOM without payment of IGST, and thereby you are taking input tax, whatever unutilized eligible input tax credit. So on such situations also, Rule 86B will not be, for that person's Rule 86B will not be applicable. And there are specific exclusions to Rule 86B with regard to government departments, public sector undertakings, local authority, and statutory authority. Hope this clarifies. Let's move on to the next and most important part of the input tax credit, that is blocked credit under Section 17, subsection 5. So blocked credit under Section 17, subsection 5 is nothing but ineligible credit. Whenever an item falls under the blocked credit under 17, subsection 5, you cannot take the input tax credit on the same. The first one is motor vehicle. Motor vehicle for the transportation of persons and where the seating capacity is not more than 13 persons, as well as vessels and aircrafts. So whatever input tax charge on these motor vehicles, vessels and aircrafts, it is not eligible under GST. But the Act provides certain exemptions to certain persons, that is, persons engaged in further supply of these motor vehicles, vessels and aircrafts, or persons engaged in the business of transportation, persons engaged in imparting training on motor vehicle, vessels and aircrafts. You can take the input tax credit. Irrespective of the ineligibility, you are eligible to input tax credit on the same. Okay, then there is service of general insurance, like services like repairs and maintenance. This is with respect to, again, the motor vehicle, vessels and aircraft. Since the motor vehicle, vessels and aircraft is not eligible for input tax credit, these services are also blocked under input tax credit. However, for the persons who are eligible to ITC as discussed above, as well as persons engaged in the general insurance business, as well as for manufacturers of motor vehicles, vessels and aircraft, input tax credit would be eligible. Then there are certain conditions, certain supplies like food and beverage, outdoor catering, beauty treatment, health service, cosmetic and plastic surgery like services. These are blocked under input tax credit, but input tax credit will be available where these supplies are used for making further supply of the same category or as an element of taxable composite or mixed supply, as well as where an employer is under any obligation under any statute to provide any of these services to their employees. Then in that condition also input tax credit would be eligible. Otherwise, input tax credit is ineligible. I would like to add one more point, that there is a service called leasing, renting and hiring of motor vehicle. So when you look into the RCM provisions, the reverse charge mechanism would be attracted in respect of leasing of motor vehicles for the services provided by a person other than a corporate person to a corporate person, and the person that is a supplier is not paying tax under GST at the rate of 12%. So that service would get attracted under the RCM provisions. So what happens is this corporate entity have to pay tax under reverse charge mechanism. Yes, input tax credit will be eligible. The tax paid under reverse charge mechanism will be falls under input tax. But whether they can take the input tax credit, the answer is no, because Section 17, subsection 5 disqualifies eligibility of input tax credit unless the other exemptions are satisfied. Then blocked credit is with respect to works contract service, that is for the construction of immovable property other than plant and machinery, or for the construction of immovable property on our own account. There also exemption is provided to plant and machinery. So for works contract service as well as construction with respect to immovable property other than plant and machinery, input tax credit will not be given unless they are used for further supply of same category. Then tax on goods and services which are paid under composition levy, input tax credit is not eligible. Goods and services received by non-resident taxable person, in that situation also it is not eligible, but you can take the input tax credit on goods imported by a non-taxable resident person. I mean, non-resident taxable person. Then supplies which are used exclusively for personal consumption, you cannot take the input tax credit. Then goods lost, stolen, destroyed, which is written off as gift or free samples, ITC is ineligible, as well as tax has been paid by any person due to fraud or willful misstatement, input tax credit cannot be taken. So the block credit concept is it is exclusive with respect to certain items, but we have to take care of these because in order to compute the eligible input tax credit, these things have to be avoided. On these things have to be eliminated in order to arrive at the eligible input tax credit. So there are recent AAR rulings. AAR means Authority for Advanced Rulings. Recent rulings are there, which are relevant with respect to Section 70, subsection 5. So with respect to Dwarikesh Sugar Industries, Dwarikesh Sugar Industries has incurred CSR expenditure in the form of construction of school building or supply of furniture, electrical goods, supply of other services, and goods as free of cost to charitable and charitable institutions and NGOs. So the UP bench of AAR held that goods and services are procured as part of CSR activities, which is mandated by the Companies Act. Yes, it is in the course or furtherance of business. Okay, and the goods and services which are supplied free of cost under the CSR activity, it cannot be construed as gift within the meaning of Section 17, subsection 5, clause H. That means it cannot be considered as gift in order to attract the portions of ineligibility. So you can take the input tax credit in respect of the goods which are supplied free of cost as CSR activities when it is mandated by the Companies Act. Okay, but with respect to the construction of school building, to the extent of capitalization, as we know, Section 17, subsection 5, clause C and clause D, it restricts the input tax credit on immovable property to the extent of capitalization. Yes, you cannot take the input tax credit on construction of school building. This was the rules of, this was ruled by the UP bench of AAR in case of Dwarikesh Sugar Industries. Then, with respect to immovable property input tax credit, there are another ruling by Gujarat AAR in respect of Vago Private Limited. That is air conditioning, cooling and ventilation system, which is installed in factory premises. It will not be considered as plant and machinery because it is not movable. They are not movable. So movable plant and machinery is also ineligible to input tax credit. So the AAR held that input tax credit will not be eligible with respect to such air conditioning and cooling and ventilation system installed in the office premises. So that was about the recent AAR rulings. Then there are certain ITC reversals. Okay, so in respect of capital goods, there are two options available. That is the tax component of capital goods. Either you can depreciate, either you can capitalize the same along with the cost of capital goods and claim the depreciation as per the Income Tax Act 1961, or else you can take the input tax credit on the same. Once you have depreciated the capital component of tax component of capital goods, you cannot claim input tax credit on the same. That is the first scenario. The second scenario is Section 17, subsection 1. What Section 17, subsection 1 says that goods and services which were procured partly for business purpose and partly for non-business purpose, then the input tax credit shall be restricted to so much of the input tax which have been used for the purpose of business. And Section 17, subsection 2 says that where the goods and services are procured partly for making taxable supplies, including zero-rated supplies, and partly for making exempt supplies, input tax credit shall be restricted to so much of the input tax which is attributable for making the taxable supplies. So under 17 subsection 1 and 17 subsection 2, you have to reverse the input tax credit, which is either attributable to your non-business purpose or either attributable to exempt supplies. And for that purpose, two rules have been introduced, that is Rule 42 and Rule 43. Rule 42 is in respect of input and input services, and Rule 43 is in respect of capital goods. So basically, Rule 42 and Rule 43 is some computations which has to be strictly followed. Okay. Then there comes section 18 subsection 4, which is read with Rule 44. 18 subsection 4 says that a person, a registered person, he is now paying tax under the regular scheme. Now he wishes to switch to composition scheme, or a person who has been supplying goods and services that were taxable, and from tomorrow onwards it becomes exempt. So since he's a registered person, we know that he would have taken the input tax credit in respect of input services as well as capital goods. So what the act says that on the day immediately preceding either the date of migration to composition scheme or the date on which the taxable supplies becomes exempt, whatever input that you were held as stock, take the input tax credit of the same, as well as capital goods, input tax credit claimed on capital goods, which is attributable for the remaining useful life of the capital goods. How to compute the remaining useful life? The rule says that you have to take the useful life of capital goods as 5 years. So proportionate to the remaining useful life of capital goods, take the input tax credit and add up the two, and you have to take this amount to your output tax liability. So this is what section 18 subsection 4 read with Rule 44 says. And ITC reversal, there are another scenarios also. Take the example of a banking company, financial institution, or NBFC. Their major source of revenue will be interest, and which is, we all know that it is exempt under GST. So section 17 subsection 4 gives them an option. Either you can comply with section 17 subsection 2, that is as per Rule 43 and Rule 44, Rule 42 and Rule 43, you have to reverse the input tax credit. Or what you can do is you can take input tax credit, that is 50% of eligible input tax credit every month, and the balance 50% shall lapse. Okay, so this is an option which is once exercised, you cannot withdraw during the remaining part of the financial year. Okay. Let's go to section 18 subsection 6, which says that is capital goods, including plant and machinery, which were used by a registered person. Now the registered person is supplying such capital goods or plant and machinery, so he has to pay to the government a higher of the following two amounts, that is input tax credit, which have been taken on such capital goods or plant and machinery as reduced by 5% per quarter, or the tax on the transaction value, whichever is higher. However, in respect of refractory bricks, molds, dies, jigs, and pictures, which is supplied as scrap, you can pay the tax directly on the transaction value. You don't have to find out the input tax credit, but we have to know the thing that here it should be supplied only as scrap. If you're going for second-hand sales or like that, this eligibility or this benefit will not be available. Okay. So this was all about my presentation with regard to GST input tax credit. I hope I could share some of my points with regard to this, one of the very sensitive topic in day-to-day business. And once again, I thank the Thrissur branch of SIRC to give me a wonderful experience to be a part of this virtual CPE program.
Thank you, CA Gayathri, for your detailed presentation on GST input tax credit, the most volatile topic we chartered accountants deal with, I should say. It has helped us all to get ourselves updated to the amendments. Thank you for your efforts. Thank you. Let me once again call upon CA Sandra to tell us more about our faculty, CA Gayathri MV, who has already presented her topics. CA Sandra.
Good evening, everyone. Actually, I was the one to introduce Gayathri, but because of some technical issues with my mobile, I couldn't unmute that time. So she has given a self-introduction, but I'll add some more points about her. So she's a newly qualified CA, qualified in November 2020. She did articleship from Mohandas and Associates, Thrissur, and she is also a BCom graduate from Indira Gandhi National Open University in the year 2018. And currently she's working as senior manager in Manappuram Finance Limited. The topic she was handled was input tax credit, and I personally feel that she has prepared very well, and she has given a very good explanation about it. The examples she cited and rulings, advanced rulings she quoted, everything was very well done. So thank you, Gayathri. Thanks a lot.
Thank you, Sandra.
I want to thank Thrissur chapter once again for giving me the second chance. Thanks a lot, everyone.
So thank you. Thank you, Sandra, for those wonderful words. And Gayathri, you have done an excellent job. And as our MC said, it's a volatile topic, ITC, and you have taken the cream of that ITC topic and presented it very well, very good. First thing, you talked about this communication between taxpayers. That is a very important point. That is communication between the supplier and the purchaser. Because nowadays, what we are seeing is some things will appear in 2A, some will appear in 2B, and we are not able to take the credit of the original bills which we have paid for. So to tackle this, the GSTN has come up with this communication tab, and we think we should hope that this will reduce further litigations on that point. Then the second proviso to section 16.2, read with rule 37, very well said about that 180 days limit and all. It was very well dealt with. Then section 16 for due dates was very clear. And in the 88A illustration, the manner of ITC utilization, you did it very well with the help of the illustration. In the case of 86B, I would like to add one more point to your presentation. That is, section 86B starts with a non-obtained clause. That is, that this rule will prevail over all the rules and provisions specified in all the other rules. That is, it has a non-obtained clause. That is the main thing in 86B. So while starting to say about 86B, you should specifically mention that 86B contains a non-obtained clause. And in the case of the ITC AAR rulings, I would like to add upon one more point. That is, in the case of an employer-employee supply, ITC would be admissible where the employer is providing supplies to its employees under any law for the time being in force. In that case, it won't be blocked. And if it is under any law for the time being in force, the ITC will be allowed, even if the supply is from employer to employee. So all these things, I think you have done an excellent job. I think we can go to the question and answer session. And we have so far received 3 questions. I'll read it out for you. The first question is, clarify about ITC on office renovation, which are the items eligible and which are not. And the question, the query has been posted by our member, and he says that, I understand that all plant and machinery, AC, furniture, partitions, etc. are eligible, except which are attached by part of the building and not added to the fixed assets value for depreciation. What is your answer, Gayathri? You have to unmute yourself. You're muted.
Sorry, ma'am. Okay. Actually, with respect to the input tax credit on immovable property, section 17, subsection 5, clause C and clause D clearly says that you cannot take the input tax credit in respect of immovable property, that is being land and building, as well as immovable plant and machinery. So in case of office renovation, it is basically the renovation is getting attracted to the structure, which is nothing but the immovable property. So far as it is capitalized in the books of accounts, you cannot take the input tax credit as section 17, subsection 5 is, it clearly prohibits the same. So once it is not capitalized, like if it is treated as repairs and maintenance, yes, you can take the input tax credit on the same. So my answer would be like that now.
Okay. And the second question goes like this. Seller has mentioned a wrong HSN code.
Sorry, ma'am. Actually, I have to add one more point.
Yeah, sure. Go on.
Okay. As we have discussed the AR rulings, in respect of that air conditioning, cooling, and ventilation system, which is installed in a factory premise, and even if that is being a plant and machinery, but which is not an immovable property, yes, the AR has held that input tax credit would not be eligible in respect of that particular item. Even we know that the AAR rulings are applicable, or it is binding only on the applicant as well as on the respective officer, but we can get an insight into what the department is saying. So likewise, we can say that in respect of immovable plant and machinery also, you cannot take the input tax credit.
Okay. So the answer to the first question is no. She says the ITC cannot be taken. And the next question is, the seller has mentioned a wrong HSN on the invoice and he has availed ITC on that invoice. Can ITC be denied due to wrong HSN? The question is about wrong HSN and ITC being denied on being recording a wrong HSN.
Actually, while going through the conditions for availing input tax credit under section 16 subsection 2 or under rule 36, it nowhere says like you cannot take the input tax credit for the so far as your HSN code is incorrect. So far as your taxable value as well as the tax declared, it remains correct. The input tax credit availability to the recipient, it cannot be questioned because it is the fault of the supplier, and the recipient cannot be punished for the same. So for us, but we have to ensure that the rate of tax as well as the tax declared, it is correct. Okay, it should be correct. Further, Rule 36 sub Rule 2 specifies that even though the tax invoice does not contain all the particulars, certain particulars like the GSTIN of recipient, the supplier, description of goods, taxable value, tax charge, place of supply in case of interstate supplies, if that remains in the tax invoice, yes, you can take the input tax credit. And one more point is that if you are going for GSTR1 in the GSTN portal and where we are uploading the B2B invoices, we are not mentioning the HSN wise details on one-to-one invoice basis. So I think the department can never trace like whether this invoice is for, with respect to a particular HSN code, because we are updating the HSN details on a consolidated basis. So I think even if the supplier has wrongly mentioned the HSN code, it will not affect your availment of input tax credit. What you can do is you can rectify it in a later period.
Okay. So you mean to say that HSN is not very significant for availing ITC?
Yeah, the ITC to the recipient should not be questioned for that.
Okay, correct. Then the third question is, again, 16.2, second proviso to 16.2, ITC is to be reversed if the payment is not done within 180 days. In the case of group companies or sister concerns, generally payment is not done. Instead, book adjustment is done. In that case, whether ITC is to be reversed is the question.
So I would like to throw some light on Schedule 1 transaction. As I have already told, the 180 days payment condition under second proviso to section 16 subsection 2 is exempted for Schedule 1 transaction. And Schedule 1 transaction contains one thing, that is supply of goods and services between related persons or between distinct persons in the course or furtherance of business. So as per explanation to section 15, related persons includes one and another which directly or indirectly controls the other. That's nothing but holding and subsidiary companies. So the sister concerns, they are being a related party or related persons, they will come under the purview of Schedule 1. Even without your paying consideration, it will be treated as supply under Schedule 1, deemed the supply. Yes, it will attract the provisions of it will not be attracted the provisions of 180 days payment conditions. So even if you are not paying, you can take the input tax credit irrespective of the 180 days payment condition.
It's a clear answer, Schedule 1 transaction. So yes, these were the questions and you have answered it beautifully. So we are moving on to the end of day 1 of Jwala. And before we wind up, I would like to put a couple of points about tomorrow. Tomorrow we are having a health expert, Dr. Sonia, along with us, and she will be throwing light on COVID and children, the topic COVID and children, but she has said that the topic will be general, not about children. It will be like how to face the post-COVID issues, how to become more resistive to the COVID infections and all. So I think tomorrow that session will be very important to all of us. I would request all the members and students to attend the third session tomorrow. And other than the 2 technical sessions, which are going to precede the general health session. So I request all the members to be very attentive to the third session. Thank you very much.
Thank you, CA Gayathri MV and CA Shilpa Ramdas. It's time to conclude today's program and adjourn the proceedings to the next day. So for that, I welcome CA Bindu ma'am, the president of our Women's Club.
As mentioned by CA Gayathri, we have come to an end of 2 technical sessions planned for today. We will move on with another 2 sessions tomorrow. So let us adjourn the meeting to tomorrow, hoping to meet you all again tomorrow at 3 o'clock. Thank you, everyone, and have a nice day.
Thank you.